Chetudarpanamarjanam Bhavamahadavagninirvatam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Visaranam Vidyavadurivanam Anandam Durivardhanam Pratipadam Puranamritasvaram Sarvatma Snapanam Padam Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the UK Sankirtan podcast. I think this is episode 20 of our marathon series. So we've really, we're getting there, getting towards the end. And today we've got a really nice guest, Divya Vrindavan. Welcome on.
Hare Krishna, hello.
Divya's she's a professional, a person in the professional world, you could say that, right?
I've got a mainstream job, I guess. Yeah, working about 30 hours a week. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So a mainstream job, but really, I've seen you a lot in the community in Wales. You're always endeavouring to go out there, and I guess you could call you a weekend warrior, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
really enthusiastic about book distribution, so we thought get you on and try and hear your perspective a little bit.
Thank you.
Have you managed to get out in the marathon yet so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last few years, I feel I've taken the marathon a little bit more seriously. I usually have like a minimum amount. I would go out generally in a month, maybe like 3 times a month. But during this marathon period, I'd sort of set myself, I think, to try and get out, maybe 6 or 7 times with a rough idea of hours. So, and try and stay steady to that. And generally, like, it's worked okay. I've had to be a bit flexible, but I've tried to do that and not just put too much pressure on myself, really. Try and go with it a little bit more.
And I know this weekend you went out with the kids. How was that?
Yeah, so really fortunate in the community in Cardiff, really, that I was just asked to be a part of the Children and Families Krishna Club, and trying to think about what I could offer, I guess, in that service. And book distribution is something I've always done since I came to Krishna Consciousness. It was one of the first things I got asked to do on the street, was try and distribute a Bhagavad Gita, which was frightening at the time, but then I've always continued to try and go out. So yeah, education, children, like, this is my mainstream job. I've got a little bit of contact with families, and I thought, right, I know that I can use my skills in this area and also introduce Sankirtan. So yeah, I think we've done like over the last 3 years, we've done at least 3 or 4 maybe book tables. We always do one in the marathon for the families and the children, usually around Christmas, and we did one on Sunday in Queen Street. And yeah, the children really embrace it. Yeah, and they go out and will approach people with books. The parents get involved also. We had a couple of other Grihasta couples that came down, and the children just seem enlivened by it, really. So I'm just trying to facilitate them to have a taste of it, I guess. If from a young age they can see the example in service of trying to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, then wow, kind of what a gift is that, really. If I'd have had the opportunity when I was a child, then yeah, unbeknown to them, we're giving them such a high gift. And hopefully it'll increase their taste to hear as well as they grow older. And yeah, I think it's gone well, and organisationally it went okay. It's always something that I get a little nervous about, but yeah, we distributed books, we had prashadam, and yeah, we just hopefully set a good example in terms of the community for Cardiff, really.
Nice. And so I know that throughout the year you have this kind of, I just see you periodically like out on the street distributing books. Usually from afar, but I'm curious myself about like what motivates you to do that, because you're not forced or asked to do that. It's like you seem to be like a self-starter as far as book distribution goes. Like where does that come from?
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, I definitely haven't been a self-starter. I was definitely introduced to it in New Zealand by Devi Mitra Swami's community there, and I spent some time with Krishna Loka, Devi, Dasi, and the ladies' ashram in New Zealand, which is quite contemporary, but I was there for just over like maybe 15 months, and there was a real expectation actually that generally during the day you would offer some kind of Sankirtan service. You try and go out on books, and I think the first time I met Devi Swami, it was quite a powerful moment when I met him for the first time. And one of the first things he said to me was, "You need to hit the street. You need to join us and hit the street, and go out." And I didn't really know what that meant when I came out of Darshan. I was like, just never met a spiritual master. I was just like, emotions were whirling. It was quite overwhelming. But a couple of his senior devotees said, "Well, you've got to do books." It's kind of what he's pointing at. So I've always held that in my heart, and I've had, in the Single Ladies Ashram and just through my journey in Krishna consciousness, I've had some, journeys with like emotional experiences and just, purification, I guess. And it's always been like, I remember Krishna Loka Devi Dasi would say, it'll be a saving grace, Divya, like, really cling on to this service. And I've never been a very big book distributor, though. That's the thing. I've never distributed heaps, but I've always felt such a shelter, particularly coming back to the UK from New Zealand and having to return to work a bit and being in the householder ashram, to be able to go out on the street, hold the books in my hand, feel Prabhupada's presence. Okay, I know I'm really not an expert in philosophy, but people are totally strangled by Maya, and they need some solace. So yeah, if I can try and offer that in any shape or form, then I just try to be an instrument. But I do get shelter from just kind of being on the street. I mean, I've definitely had some difficult interactions before, and that's never pleasant. But it's always the most that I feel closer to Srila Prabhupada, actually. And I would say Devi Swami, I am naturally quite a social person. Like I enjoy, I like interpersonal relationships. I mean, I'm not always the best at it. I think it's evolved a bit over the years, particularly coming to Krishna consciousness, There's lots of you got to face in terms of your own personality at times. But I like interaction with people and the opportunity just to try and show them the sacred literature, talk about the divine, try and just sow a seed in their heart is, to me, it's like, wow, why would you not want to try and grab onto that?
Nice. It's really inspiring. I feel like if more of us just made that commitment to go out, just set the bar achievable, go out a few times a month and think about how much that's going to increase over time if we're all doing that. So it's a good example that you're setting, definitely.
Yeah.
I was wondering, did you have any nice interactions recently, or even not recently, but just a nice interaction on the street that maybe you could share with us?
I was in Ponty the other week. I like to go to Pontypridd. It's I'm from a small northern town in England, and I think I've just got this, a little bit of a rasa for small towns. And I spoke to this young lad. I think he was 15. He wasn't in school, but he'd cycled from some very small, village, fairly. I think it's cycled 8 miles to get to Pontypridd, and I was like, really, giving him lots of praise for that. And how are you doing that? Wow, you must be so fit and healthy. And he looked so lost, and he didn't really have any purpose in being in Pontypridd. I just come for a wander. And he said he liked gaming, and he was into fantasy books and fantasy film and sci-fi, and and then I showed him Sri Upanishad and the picture of Krishna on the front, which attracts a lot of people, and he was so swept up in it, and oh wow, who's he and what's his personality, or can I have a look at the book? And immediately took it out of my hand, and and he gave like a handful of change. But I just thought, for me, it was like there's a lifeline to some of these books for so many young people at the minute. I think that there's just no type of direction or focus for them, and it's very hard to see any significant role models, or if there are role models in the media at the minute, particularly for maybe young lads, they're often could be very toxic and quite dangerous at times. So it's like, wow, if we can show a personality like Krishna and they can be captured by him, or even Srila Prabhupada, how rich can society really be actually if we just keep trying to distribute these books? He could pass it on to someone else. He could leave it, gaming with another one of his friends. You just really don't know where the books will go. And that's kind of something I've reflected on in the last week, really. Yeah.
Nice.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta